Hi, me Helene here, Cabin Fever Crochet in northeastern Washington State on another chilly day, but the sun just started peeking through. Yay! Feels so good, warm on my shoulders, and will give us a little bit of extra lighting for this. So I'm going to show you my October's KnitCrate and my little oops that I did. But that's okay. It'll be fine. Let that be the least worries in life, my little oops. But I haven't purchased my membership crate, the box itself, since back April of this year. I have, though, purchased other yarns from KnitCrate, maybe months that I had skipped and decided I liked it after all. Purchased it for a tutorial project for myself or just later on down the road. And so this month, if you recall, I went to Hobby Lobby and did 2 yarn tours. And the first of the 2, I showed the Yarn-Be Authentic, their new hand-dyed 100% superwash merino. So I picked up this wonderful range of colors. I just love this. Goes with everything. Specifically to go with my anticipated arrival of my KnitCrate for this month, because I thought I had ordered the color in Petal, which is kind of a rose clay tone. I thought it is going to go perfectly with this. Well, apparently I must have clicked the chill out instead. I don't know, really thought I had chose Energize, but I got 2 hanks of the Shiraz in the City, which is a very interesting gray brown. I don't dislike it. I don't mind it. I actually like brown, but I typically like a little more color around my face, even though it's neutral. I think this could work. I'll see once I work it up, because it does have some brown in it and hopefully won't be too much of a contrast. I was going to make a hat. That's what this is going to be for, to go with this yarn. But this is 82% merino wool and 18% Peruvian Pima cotton. And it's interesting, it has a cotton core, and then the merino wool is air spun around it. And it is very light and fluffy. It's not tightly wound. It's not real dense. It's very soft, very squishy. These 2, I'm going to make a thick, chunky cowl. I'm going to try to make the rectangle, and then you fold the 2 over, and it's a fixed piece here with some buttons on there. I'm going to give you a sample, so if you want to continue on with me, then follow me over to my table and see how this works up. Oh, and if you like the little scarf that I'm wearing, that was a tutorial of mine. It is a free pattern, a Willow pattern, and it's just a simple chevron scarf. It would be great for a beginner, and I will leave the link to that below if you want to check it out. And it works great in many different types, weights of yarn, so depending on the season where you are, might be something fitting for you. All right, well, I will see you over at my table, and we can check these out together in just a minute. I want to show you the little extra that I got. It's a little stitch marker by Hook and Cable, and it looks to me like it's floss thread that was wound into a cute little hank, and that's fine. It's just a little, that's okay. I get the KnitCrate for the yarn and the inspiration and the patterns. So here is this month's, and what I like about the catalogs is that you get the sock patterns along with it, the knit and crochet. Now this month, KnitCrate did a change. They are going with 2 options with an eco packaging instead of the box. and it's the same price for the crate as it has been. However, it does not come with the booklet. It comes with a little postcard that you can download and print out your own patterns. Well, part of the whole experience for me is getting these little booklets. I like to take them with me on the go, having several patterns in there, and the inspiration to just look through, and the other yarns as well. This holds up a lot better than a piece of paper, and it's more of a keepsake for me that I put into my crochet. And then now, as I'm kind of delving a little more into knitting and into my library. And so I really have come to appreciate and look forward to this. I'm totally fine with the eco packaging, and I hope that at some point that KnitCrate, if you're listening, I don't know, but maybe you'll offer a third option where we can get the catalog and the eco packaging. So I opted to get this. It's a couple of dollars extra. And so the color that I thought that I was getting here was this kind of clayish color with a hint of peach to it, but I think they're all quite nice. And the theme, Nudess, was neutrals for everyone. And there's a little bit better close-up of it. See, I think that would have just been great together. I'm just still kind of annoyed with myself, I guess, in a way, but oh well. And then here are the sock crates. I really love the sherbet, and then this green color they named Daphne. And this one's all sold out, but this, the last time I checked, is available. I really like that green color. So for the knit pattern, quite beautiful. They're calling a kerchief. Back in the day, we would have called this a dickie, but where dickies typically just come to about mid-chest, and then you've got the turtleneck portion. They've extended it. Wonderful cabling texture. That's way beyond my skills on knitting. I'm just relearning that again, but that could be a really wonderful project for those of you who are more proficient at it. And then the Overcast Cowl, really good for beginners. For me, yeah, you know, it's not rather uninspiring. I don't want to knock it just because that is something that I could make and wouldn't need a pattern for it. But that's okay. There are plenty others, and I have a lot of stitch books, so I can easily come up with something of my own. I really like both of the socks. There's the twist socks, which I think are terrific in the knitting, and then the crochet Fizzy Peach socks by Ron, R-O-H-N Strong, and he is also on YouTube, I believe, and a wonderful sock designer. And so here are the knit socks. I think those are really cool. I really like the stitches of those. The stitch pattern, I guess I should say. Great design. And then the socks are little anklets in the crochet pattern. So I am going to save this for, my hands are getting so cold I can't feel what I'm doing. Here we go, page 26. Thought I had it. Oh, yeah, and I thought there was a bigger picture, but anyway, you get the idea. Little footy anklet socks, so those will be great for another season. All right, so let's head on over to my table. I'm going to wind this, and let's see how it works up together. Okay, here we go. Wow, I'm enjoying this yarn already. The color might show up a little bit differently on camera depending on the lighting, but I want to tell you a few things that I discovered as I'm winding it up. When I cut the string, these two ends were tied together in a little knot that I was able to take out very easily without having to cut and sacrifice any of this yarn. Then when I got it set up on my yarn swift, attached it to my ball winder, I was a little bit concerned how that was going to attach and wind. because I have a laces regular size ball winder. They come in two sizes, a regular and a larger size for larger amounts of yarn. However, some of the more bulky, super bulky, and the denser type yarns I've had a harder time with, where my ball winder stops or it knocks the bar down because it's just too tight, too thick, too much tension going on, or the yarn just flies off the spindle itself. I have to say this was one of the easiest and nicest yarns to wind. It was easy because of finding the end strand on the outside. Cutting the ends was easy enough to where I could open it up but not so loose that anything fell apart. And just the smoothness, softness, and the ease of winding it, and then how it came together in a beautiful cake. And both hanks acted the same. Even though the ends were a little bit different, it was still just as easy to find, and I did not lose any yarn at the end, which was wonderful. And my hands, they're not small, they're larger, and you can see how huge this is, but it is still very light. It is just so soft and fluffy. So then I have my cake here, which I already started playing around with, and I looked at the size recommendation in the booklet for the crochet cowl, and it recommends a US M or N, and it says 9mm. And you know, sometimes the numbered sizes on the actual tool can vary from brand to brand. Well, these are all 3 Furls hooks, and so my M, this is the Furls Odyssey, by the way, the M is an 8mm, the N is the 9, and the P is the 10mm. And you can see the difference here. In fact, I'm going to zoom in a little so you can see up close. Okay, so you can see the differences side by side in the sizing of these. There's not a big difference between the M and the N looking at it, but there was somewhat in the feel in working up a sample. And then here's the P, which is just huge in comparison. So as I had thought, my favorite was the middle one, the N 9mm. As far as ease of working with it, how the yarn glided on the hook, and because it has a fuzziness to it, it does have enough stitch definition where I can see the stitches, but there's still that fuzz to where I had to go a little bit by feel, at least on my initial beginning stitch. And this is a foundation single crochet where I'm working the chain in the single crochet into one. So here I started my first 8 stitches. I worked in the M, all right, put a stitch marker, and now so you can see the difference in the height and the density of it. Here is the N, so it's going to be a little more pliable, have a little more drape. This is a little denser and stiffer with the smallest hook out of the 3. And then here I went up to the P, and even though it worked up, it took longer, it was slower, it was more fiddly. I had to kind of feel a little bit where the stitches are to fit this big fat hook into the yarn. And even though it's a super bulky, because it is light and fluffy, it's not as dense, and so that's why it can go down hook size. One thing that was interesting is the evening lighting, the sun coming through the window, and as I was winding it, it was casting a light onto the top portion and edge of the cake, and actually glowed a little bit of a plum blue shade. So it really depends on the lighting, the type of day, that it casts different shades to it. And now I'm going to pull that out. And what I did notice, though, that the yarn, because it is fuzzy, it did tend to catch just a little on itself here and there as I was winding it, but not real badly at all. And that's just the nature of this type of yarn, the way that it is spun, and I would expect that, so I don't think that's not too much of a deterrent. But you can see already here, I would just go very slowly. See, it's catching a little. You see that? All right, make sure I'm in camera, that would help. Right here. Okay, and right here a little bit. So I would be careful pulling it out. Just go a little bit slower than you normally would. And go in the direction of the yarn as it's pulling out. And it tends to go a little bit easier. And pulling it closer to the base of the stitch helps, rather than farther out here. So the tension is more close and gives more stability and control. That certainly helps also. All right, so now I'm going to take out my stitch marker and just work a couple of stitches here together with you. I'll do a couple. That's not usually how I would do it. I just, to be quick about that here, work a couple of single crochets, do a double. How about single and a double? Now for me, with my hands, it's often harder on them working with super bulky yarn, as it is for me is the opposite end of that, working with real fine yarn. So having a hook that's smooth and glides, that you don't have to fight with, will make a big difference, along with ergonomic design and control, and the weight of it to take the work off of your joints and let the hook help do the work for you. And that's why I like these so much, but I'll get into that some other time. So here I just did a double and single crochet together in the same stitch. You can still see the stitches, but yet it has that fuzziness too. So I think, to me, for this, I would go with a relatively simple stitch, and will give some interest and weight to it also, because it is a super bulky, so I want to use this as a very cold weather piece. I like it. I like it a lot more than I was expecting to, actually, so I'm quite pleased with it. Okay, well, please let me know, did you get your crate this month? What colorway? What do you think about it? Have you tried it? And do you know what you are going to make with it yet? All right, well, take care, everyone. Thanks again so much for being here, as always. All right, until next time, be well, and I will see you soon.